This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. Here's your host, Corey Tusick.
This is the Bitcoin Made Simple podcast. I'm your host, Corey Tusick. On today's episode, I interviewed Isaiah Jackson. You might know him better as Bitcoin Zay on Twitter. Isaiah is the author of Bitcoin in Black America. He also hosts his own podcast, Community Crypto. It's a daily podcast on YouTube and everywhere else. And we talked about his book, Bitcoin in the Black Community, and how he sees Bitcoin being able to help the Black community, but also all communities in general, and helping lead people towards being more self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and self-sovereign. And we also got into his background about how he got into Bitcoin and how his background in IT helped lead him down that path. We also discuss a little bit about where he sees Bitcoin going in the future, what the new horizon, what the new frontier looks like. And then we also talk about a little bit about his Bitcoin Classic basketball tournament. It's the first Bitcoin basketball tournament that will be happening down in Miami during the conference. So it was I really enjoyed my talk with Isaiah. And without further ado, here is my interview with Isaiah Jackson. I think we're recording. I hate how on Zoom it doesn't show you like time rolling. I guess that's the filmmaker in me. I want to see like the timestamp rolling, and I need somebody to come in all right, action.
All good.
But yeah, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, brother.
So one of the things I wanted to reach out to you about first is that I love that you took straight into the angle of the Bitcoin in Black America in your book, and really trying to help your community, and I think that also in general helps communities at large. But before we get into that, I was curious, what's your background and how did you stumble into Bitcoin? Because we all stumble into it, nobody.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like we're all lucky to find out about it, especially as early as I did. 2013 is when I heard about Bitcoin. The way I stumbled into it is I had a roommate. He worked for a financial institution, and he came home and was like, yeah, they're talking about this thing called Bitcoin. I have no clue what it is. It's too technical for me. And my background was in IT. I did IT for a law firm. I was a teacher. I taught high school before that. So I have a computer science degree. So I have a technical background. He kind of passed it off to me. And in 2013, just took off from there, read a lot, continue to. I still read pretty much every single day about it. And my entry into it, as far as my background was, I believe in '08, when the financial recession happened, the hardest hit people were people like me in college. We're already extremely broke. We're putting change together to buy burgers at Wendy's. We're already broke. And then the financial recession happened, and I didn't realize how inept our leaders were, or our banks and our financial institution. And when I saw that, that's really my background. Is when I saw that, I was like, something has to change. I didn't know what it was, but 5 years later, Bitcoin comes about, and it was just instant. I know this can be it. And then I've spent the rest of my life since then, the last 8 years, letting other people know.
Yeah. And so it sounds like we're probably around the same. When did you graduate college?
2011.
Okay. Yeah, I graduated 2009. So we're around we're kind of in that same world of I remember people telling me they're wow, this is the worst time to graduate college. I was like, thanks.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
I don't know how to react to that other than okay. But yeah, it's nuts. And where'd you go to school?
NC State in Raleigh.
NC State. Okay. All right. So we had, is that Philip Rivers?
Yep. Philip Rivers was a senior when I was coming in. And then Mario Williams as well. He got drafted number 1 at defensive end.
Oh yeah,
Texas.
Yeah.
So yeah. So they got a few people at NC State, but not as big as Carolina or Duke.
No, but we have Bill Cowher, the Steeler coach. Mm-hmm. He played at NC State. And then I think he moved down to North Carolina after he retired for a little bit, but now he's got that New York gig with his daughter goes there.
Yeah, his daughter went there. Yeah, so he was there for a while, and his daughter went there around the time I did, maybe a little bit after. So
I love the ACC to get on a basketball tangent, because I went to Pitt and we were part of the Big East.
Nice.
And the Big East, was great for basketball.
Mm-hmm.
but I really always loved the ACC. So I mean, as a Pitt grad, I'm like, we're like outsiders, you know what I mean? Like I don't feel like we belong in the ACC. We definitely don't. Um,
Mhm,
but yeah, I love that conference,
mhm.
and yeah, it's a little intense. And I'm a Michigan fan, so last night was brutal for me.
Oh
Um,
man, yeah, that was tough. UCLA, UCLA did it. But you
I
know what's
know,
funny? You went to Pitt. I was this close to going to Pitt.
no
If they
way.
would have get, if they would have gave a full scholarship, I probably would have went. But because I was out of state, it only covered probably like 75%, and I was like, I can
Mm.
go for free to NC State. But Pitt was number two,
Oh, no
so I
way.
would have been in
That's
school. I
awesome.
would have been in school. I would have been in school with you. So
Dude,
that's
we
crazy.
probably
That
would have
shit's
been
so
we
dope.
probably been hanging
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
because I love the campus there. It's just it's a cool city campus, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Cathedral of Learning, you know, the
Yep.
big it's like the tallest educational building. My wife calls it Hogwarts because on the inside it kind of looks like Hogwarts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those were the days, and we would go up like late at night and hang out on the top of the building. I don't want to say too
Hmm.
much and get because I'm sure my if my dad's listening to this, he's probably shaking his head like, "Oh God." Um, but anyways, um, so yeah, you got a full ride then. So what was that for? Was that for your major, or was that for did you do
It was
sports or?
Well, the initial thing was sports. I got letters or I got recruited to go to the Presbyterian College, UNCW, but I decided to go to NC State to walk on because, from an academic standpoint, I had a full scholarship the first year. And my biggest thing is I always felt like I was smart, but I didn't really care that much about college. Like, I just being honest, I didn't care. It was too.
I'm right there
It,
with you, man.
it was too broad for me. I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I know it's not this. I know it's not that. I don't really even know why I'm here. So my grades fell the first year. So my scholarship was gone. It was all good, got through it. But yeah, that's the reason I chose NC State, full ride, and it's local. And the good thing about NC State is that it is a big engineering school, biggest in the South. So
Hmm.
as far as computer engineering goes, I work with some of the best. Cisco's right up the street. The Research Triangle is 20 minutes away. So got to intern and work with a lot of cool people at NC State. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Did you play basketball there? Was
I
that your
walked
sport
on.
or?
Well, I walked on freshman year, and it's a funny story. 2 weeks before we took team pictures, I got the notice that you and another friend I had have a chance to make the team, and they were like, "Well, one of you are going to make it," and then we both kind of became friends because neither one of us actually wanted to play. Because what we realized was, if I walk on, we're practicing at 6 a.m. We got shoot around at 2. We got, a team meeting later, team dinner, and all this stuff. And this was before school started. So this is the summer leading up
Yeah.
to freshman year. I was like, I'm not playing in the NBA. I'm not getting any time. I'm not about to go through all this rigorous stuff. I want to enjoy my college year. So I walked on, but I actually quit before the team pictures. But, the good thing was I won all the intramural championships every single
Oh
year I
yeah.
was there. So yeah, it was just like me and a bunch of guys who decided not to play D1 basketball, and then we just ran through everybody intramurals. So
That's
yeah,
like
big basketball fan.
oh, that's funny. That's funny because I played hockey for Pitt, so
Okay.
I can kind of relate to that because after we were done, there was like a group of us that did an adult league, and it was just
Hmm.
murder. It was like we
Yeah,
were just
it's too easy.
yeah, and we were also like getting in fights with people and stuff, and it was like these
Hmm.
dudes who were like like accountants and like
Yeah.
construction workers like in their 30s and 40s playing against
Exactly.
us, and like we're just flipping out on them. Um,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's good so I saw you mention you're gonna are you hosting a basketball tournament down in Miami for the Bitcoin
Oh,
conference?
oh yeah. So the Bitcoin Classic, first in the world. To the winners, they win Bitcoin. The first event is actually in May. That's in Connecticut. The winners there will all be a Satoshi millionaire, the winning team. And then in Miami, the winning team wins 25,000 worth of Bitcoin.
Oh,
That'll be at the
nice.
Bitcoin 2021 conference. Right now it's just team sign up, but we're trying to implement 3-point shootout and dunk contest and get some NBA players in, and basically just awareness around Bitcoin. Because at halftime there'll be somebody who does like a small speech. There'll be
Hmm.
handouts for people. Probably the little Bitcoin book, probably hand out to everybody. Just because we want to make sure that even if you don't understand Bitcoin or understand this space, you don't really have to change what you do. So we're basically making this. Hey, you're going to watch basketball anyway. Why not learn about Bitcoin while you do it? So this is just one of many events I'm planning on. But yeah, it'll be in Miami, June 5th and 6th at Bitcoin 2021.
That's awesome. And I'll see if I can wrangle a team together because I'm not like patting myself on the back. I'm a good athlete, but when it comes to basketball, my family is historically terrible at shooting a basketball.
Hey,
And
we always need somebody to set picks and play good defense.
Yeah, and like I'm like it's funny because my buddy and like my best friend in college was a basketball player, and so we'd play with like the basketball kids, and I was good at like dishing the ball and and passing, but yeah, whenever it came to shooting, it was like God, I hope it hits the backboard. And then like now I got to this point where I at two different occasions in my life I broke my wrists, like each wrist, and I can't make each one like flat. So like when I'm trying to shoot, like my hand is automatically aimed off the center. So maybe it'll be just entertainment purposes. Like you could stick me on the court and I'll just like launch bricks left and right.
Good entertainment value because nobody there is going to be a professional. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I love you Bitcoiners, but probably not the most athletic group of people.
Not at all. Yeah, might have a couple NBA players that show up, but I don't know if they're playing.
Well, we're seeing too, because that's one of the things I'm reaching out to now that I'm in my 30s. There's like my Rolodex of like pro athletes where I was like, oh, I wonder if any of them are into it, but they're all like retired now too, so they're probably not dumping their NFL or NBA anything like that salaries into Bitcoin because they're doing other things. And I'm like, so what do you think about that? I mean, I see there's a lot of obviously Russell Okung was the first one that came out, but I mean, there's like 5 guys in the NFL that just came out and said they're all for it. Do you think we're going to see like a big wave of that?
Actually, it's already started. As far as NFL, NBA players that I know personally that have Bitcoin, know about it. A lot of their entry into it was NFTs, which again, my theory with NFTs is that all roads lead to Bitcoin at some point.
Yep.
So even if that's their entryway, the crypto side of it, they'll get to Bitcoin at some point. So I think we have a long way to go, but there's way more professional athletes that have Bitcoin than people realize. They just don't say it out loud because usually their financial manager or their financial planner or their agent or somebody's like, you can't put this out. It's a very polarizing discussion, or they weren't supposed to buy it. Because I know a lot of NBA players that in 2017, when I was talking to them, they're like, yeah, my financial manager said, don't touch Bitcoin. It's too volatile. It's too risky. And they listened to him. Then the price, of course, in the latter part of 2020 accelerated so fast. They were like, man, forget that. I'm buying Bitcoin whether they want it or not. So there's a lot more than people know. But there is a huge swell of professional players getting into the space. I just talked to the head of technology for the LA Clippers and spoke to some people in the NBA they have a blockchain coalition that they're starting. So they're not really going away, like the NFTs portion, but the Bitcoin portion of it is going to be a little bit slower, only because people don't understand it. I think NFTs, you can get it quick. Like it's there, you buy it, it's auction. Bitcoin is you go so deep in the rabbit hole, most people think it's, pretty hard to learn. But honestly, it's really simple. Just buy it and wait. I mean, it's maybe the easiest investment of all time. It's not sexy like cryptos and Lambos and girls in bikinis and whatever. But yeah, just dollar cost average and wait. I think a lot of people make it more, more difficult than it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the biggest opportunities, all the athletes getting into it. Like I think the NBA has kind of been at the forefront of this. A lot of their players with their self-management of their finances, and like protecting their wealth going forward. Because like whether it's shoe deals and then and striking their own business partnerships and everything like that. I mean, what LeBron now has his own agency or no, like I mean, it's crazy, but I was like always thinking that they're gonna get into it because they're all about they understand what devaluing their dollar looks like, you know what I mean? So like even though LeBron is making like however much he is for the next X number of years, he can look into the future and go, oh man, my contract just got slashed in half.
Pretty much. I mean, inflation is basically taking their money without them knowing it. So yeah, you're right. Keeping the wealth is the hard part. Getting it for them is pretty easy, but yeah, keeping it is priceless. And that's what I think they don't understand about Bitcoin is when they see a 15 to 20% inflation rate and the value of their dollar goes down so much they can't afford stuff they usually could, Bitcoin's gonna become much more viable, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So how would you explain it to somebody like they're a 5-year-old, maybe 10-year-old? A 5-year-old, that's a little too much, a little too low. It's like Michael Scott level of intelligence. But I'm curious because I'm hoping, with this being Bitcoin made simple, and I'm hoping that we can kind of be like, I want to be that entry level for people in the entertainment business and sports and everything like that, to be like, all right, what is this thing? So if they came up to you and said, dude, Isaiah, explain it. What is it? And you got 5 minutes. What would you say?
Yeah. So basically, explain it to a 10-year-old. Bitcoin is money. Very simply, that's what it is. Bitcoin is money, and because it is digital, there are different factors that make it a superior money than what we already have. There's scarcity. For one, nothing has value without scarcity. For two, you can send it to anybody in the world. Nobody can stop you. And Bitcoin's open 24/7. For three, anytime you discuss what good money is, it should never be devalued 99% over time. And that's what our current dollar has done. And that's why prices are higher now than they were before. And a lot of times when I tell somebody that simply, or even tell like a kid, I'm teaching a Bitcoin summer camp this summer. When I tell them that, I always relate it to something that they're going through. So if it was an actual 10-year-old, I would say, hey, Bitcoin is digital money like you use in video games. Because gamification of Bitcoin, I think, it gets a lot of kids going. But if it was an older person that just needed very simply, that's what I would say. Bitcoin is money, it's digital, it's scarce, and anybody can use it. And from there, when they ask the questions, I go further. But that's how I would simply explain it. And I don't want to get too deep into the technical side because I think some people are so smart, they don't realize you're speaking another language. Like,
yeah,
you have to, you have
it's
to
a
use
completely
words.
different language.
I mean, when you start talking about block heights and hash functions and elliptic curve, people are like, I don't know what the hell is going on, but that just drove me away. And I think a good example is what's his name, Dave Portnoy, the guy who's a big day trader for Barstool. He was saying the reason he sold Bitcoin is because he talked to the Winklevoss brothers, and the way they explained it to him was like, yeah, we're going to be in Mars with aliens, and they're going to use crypto. And I was like, yeah. See, when you talk to people and you start using all these within our bubble, that may sound good, but when you go to the outside world, you sound like a crazy person, and that's why you have to relate it to people and meet them where they are. So that's what I try to do, is meet them where they are and see how they can use it, because humans are, inherently selfish. So you gotta relate it to them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go the Mars route. Like, you can pay. You can pay for coffee in a Starbucks on Mars someday in the future. Or something like that. That's it's something interesting you said about how, like, you think all things lead back to Bitcoin. And I've found that with myself. Like, I initially kind of spread my money around, and then and now, like, I was on this comedian's podcast, and in the comments, all these people were calling me like a Bitcoin maxi pad and everything like that. And I was like, whatever. I mean, I was like, you'll see, you work your way back. So to me, I think all this stuff will get built on top of Bitcoin. What do you see happening?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I see. The base layer is Bitcoin. Everything else that's built, the liquidity, the profit, the whatever people are looking for is going to be in Bitcoin. It's going to be denominated in Bitcoin at some point or converted. And I think that that's very underrated, because people, they see it as either an investment, or they see Bitcoin as just another one of the cryptocurrencies. It's like, no, it's the cryptocurrency. Everything else to me are businesses or a project, which is fine. You can speculate, but this is different. And I think that all roads lead to Bitcoin, simply because, like you just said, everybody does the same thing. They start with Bitcoin, then they look at the shiny stuff. They're like, oh, look at this, whatever. But a report just came out today. They showed that the CNBC portfolio that they did in 2017, where they had like Ripple and Monero and Metal, they had like a bunch of ones. It actually got outperformed by just holding Bitcoin by 140%. That's all you had to do, is buy Bitcoin and wait. And all the portfolio stuff, I try to remind people, is like, you do realize when you buy this stuff and then you sell it again later, that's a taxable event. Bitcoin is better. You can buy it and sit on it. Never pay taxes on it if you want to. And you really don't even have to sell it. You can get a loan for it at some point. So it's nothing really close to it, in my opinion. And even though people like, are you a Bitcoin maxi? I'm interested in other things. But when you talk about what works and what has worked, nothing's even close to Bitcoin. And it's only going to get stronger. It's only going to get more, more support. And as a base layer, I think is great. Layer 2 may take out a lot of cryptocurrencies, because if you want privacy, you can do it through Lightning Network. If you want quick payments, you can do it through Liquid or Lightning Network. So, I just think that it's going to suck up everything into it to a Bitcoin standard, like my man Safi Dean, who wrote the Bitcoin standard, says. So I think that's definitely around the corner.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting. Guy Swan explained to me, he said that it was like the TCP/IP, like the base layer protocol, which is, talking your language, and you probably get that stuff, way more than I do. But I was like, yeah, you don't go to like multiple internets. There's one internet. And like, and so to me, like the idea of owning an entire Bitcoin, or let alone a fraction of a Bitcoin in like 100 years, obviously that doesn't matter to us, but like maybe even less time, is going to be insane. People are going to be like, whoa, you own one? Because like there's going to be Lightning on top of that. There's going to be other layers. So it's like Visa just is going to merge over, like they're kind of already doing it.
Yeah, for payments. Yeah. And I think they're getting out ahead of it as far as the payments game, because again, Bitcoin is money. So you have 3 stages, right? So you got to have the store value. It has to be trusted as store value. Then it's medium of exchange, then a unit of account. I think the next 5-7 years will be the medium of exchange era, like moving towards it. But I think the promise of Bitcoin will happen because the infrastructure from Visa, infrastructure from PayPal, they already have millions of merchants who want to accept it. But I don't think people will just be spending Bitcoin willy-nilly, because again, exactly. I have the story of buying a $900 burrito back in 2016 because what I spent. So I don't think people will spend it initially. I think what will happen is these businesses will say, we accept Bitcoin, and then in order to get it, you have to give a discount, and it's going to be like major discounts. Like imagine Bitcoin going to 500,000. There's no way people are, you know what I mean? Like once people see that, they're like, man, I need an 80-90% discount to part with my Bitcoin. So you'll see people that I think denominating in Satoshis at that point. I know some people have talked about $1 equal 1 Satoshi, 1 cent equal 1 sat. If that happens, again, like you said, owning, let's say right now you own 1 million Satoshis. Right now, 1 million Satoshis is like $600. Like literally, well, if $1 equals 1 Satoshi in 20 years, you could essentially make your family millionaires for $600 today. And I don't even want to get into if one equals 1 cent. That's, $100 million, that's insane. $10 million. Yeah. So again, you're right. And I think because we're so used to the dollar standard, we say it in that way. But to me, I think about Satoshis as 1 Satoshi equal $1. And when you spend it, that's what it should be. So when like Tesla, when they're like, yeah, we accept Bitcoin, what is it? 60,000 Satoshis? Because that's the most you're getting out of me, buddy.
yeah, exactly.
I'm not spending Bitcoin. I think those discounts will have to be put in once businesses accept it. And again, I think people are missing the fact that there's going to be businesses that say we only accept Bitcoin or only crypto, because every time we get the dollar, it's inflated and hyperinflation comes, So I think all those factors will lead to Bitcoin being a medium of exchange. And moving forward, it'll be considered money, and we'll all look back and be like, man, 60,000 Bitcoin was cheap as hell. We should have got more.
So with your book, Bitcoin in Black America, I wanted to ask you, what was the motivation behind that? I mean, I kind of figure out, but I want to hear in your words, and how did that come about?
So I knew Bitcoin was a huge technological innovation. Early on, I realized it was a lot to learn, but in 2015, after about 2 years of reading and learning every day, I started to see the synergy between Bitcoin's group economics and the Black community's need for a system that promotes group economics. So, and what I mean by that is Bitcoin is, to me, the best form of group economics, because for one, I don't have to know you. I don't have to talk to you. I don't even have to like you. We can have totally different worlds, and somehow we're all getting richer together just because we decide to use the same money system. Beautiful group economics. And anybody can join, any age, any race, anybody. So that's, to me, great group economics. On top of that, I feel like the Black community can build using that group economics, because every group of people that have succeeded or gone on to be successful in this country have used group economics to help each other, simply because it works. And even though people may say, hey, we have an open society, we have this, still a lot of things in place from before that affect communities now. And I think Bitcoin opens that up. It gets rid of those barriers, those divides. So when I wrote the book, I wanted to make sure I targeted Black people because we can't miss it this time. Like, this is the internet again, and we can't miss the technological innovation that comes from this, either as an investor, participator, developer, whatever it takes. The Black community has to be involved. And I also wrote the book because I felt like about 80% of it could apply to anybody. Even though it was for the Black community, when you read through it, you're like, yeah, this solution can apply to anybody. So I made a solution-based book. It is not a whole bunch of woe is me, we should be sad, no, it's like, all right, we are great as a group of people. We just have to shift where we put our energy. Because if we put it into the fiat system, no matter what civil rights, no matter what change you think is going to happen, you're still feeding the system that's oppressing you. And that makes no sense. Why would you fund your own oppression? That makes absolutely no sense. So with Black people, I wanted to show that with Bitcoin, not only do we have allies, we also have people who we don't know, don't ever have to talk to, that will all help us get better and have a better money system. So had to put this book out. And I think the reception has been good simply because even though it's pointed towards the Black community, it applies to everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's good for any community, like, just us as a human race, community. It can look towards anything, but, with everything that, has gone on in the last year, I think it's a great thing for, like you said, for you to reach out to your community and say, hey, like, let's not miss this.
Exactly.
I heard you on Peter McCormick, I think, talk about like the exit and freeway system, you know what I mean? And like in the oppression and the redlining and all that. And like, just from my own personal experience, as soon as you said that, talked about that, about how you could drive by it, not even know it was there, I would take the bus down. Like I never rode the public bus until I took it to go down to the University of Pittsburgh. So I'm riding the bus, and instead of going on the highway like it normally does, it goes through all the neighborhoods. And I was like, I had no idea all this was here. I've never seen these neighborhoods. And I was like, and like literally there's like a line of trees that separate the highway from like the neighborhood, and you just don't even know. You just drive by.
Just drive by, and you never have a reason to go in that neighborhood because a lot of times those neighborhoods underdeveloped, food deserts, poverty, maybe crime, and all of that is because they don't have a chance to even have an increase in property value. Like, you can't even increase your property value if you wanted to, living near a highway. That's why it was built straight through it. And when that happens, you can't really have the tax money or that's coming in support that community. And then it's just onward fumble process all the way down to the point where it's not really much value. And then people come in and scoop it up, which people call gentrification. And that's what's happening now. And it's a very simple process. The problem is people just don't realize it until, like you said, you were taken to a neighborhood and didn't even realize it. And it was like, I didn't even know this was here. So that's really a lot of why I wrote that book too, because I was surprised that people didn't know about redlining. Like, I've been hearing about that my whole life. I was surprised that people didn't understand the financial system shutting out Black people for years systematically, and then coming back and saying, yeah, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like, it's a lot of mental abuse there that I was surprised people didn't know about. But now that people do, you understand the plight. And that's why I really want Black people to get into the space, because I was like, nobody should want Bitcoin more than us. We should be fighting tooth and nail to get this implemented as a system, because it's like all that's been done to us, man. Banks should be the last thought in our mind as much as they've done. So you're right. I'm just glad that once you get the education and you know it, you can learn from there and use it.
You guys can, stand on the graves of the banks because they're going down. And, it's just the thing, with Bitcoin, like you said, you don't even know who the people are. It's like, the thing I love about it is it's like, it's colorblind, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like, you could have it traveling between wallets of people from all over the world. And it's a system. It works, it's a software, like Microsoft software doesn't care, who you are or what you are. The internet doesn't care who you are, what you are. I was curious because I think, just from having followed you on Twitter here for a while, I think I can get the vibe that we agree a lot on how politicians just are as human beings. but
Yeah.
but yeah, I saw your tweet recently saying something about like how you know you don't want to get on anybody's I think you just said it yesterday, like you don't want to get on anybody's cause or anything unless
No,
it's about economics. So
exactly.
explain that a little bit.
So I think recently, and it's crazy that this is probably the last 10 years, every time something's done to somebody, there's this big social media uproar, and there's all of a sudden a cause we're supposed to care about. I mean, I could go through the whole list right now. Cause is Stop Asian Hate. It was Black Lives Matter before that. It was Bring Back Our Girls before that. It was a bunch of stuff that I feel like people fake care about. They don't
Yep.
really care.
Yep.
Like if you, all right, the definition of caring means that you would actually be out doing something about it. Typing that you care or typing that this is bad, that does nothing. And that's what
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot in the social media era. As far as joining these movements, it's like, okay, so what about the money part? Like, where's the all this talk about stuff? And even with, for example, a lot of people are surprised when I speak out against Black Lives Matter because they think all Black people are supposed to just join this organization and believe in what they do. No, I'm never going to be partial to an organization that wants to get rid of the nuclear family, gets hundreds of millions of dollars, and doesn't give it to Black people. Like, what are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They're, to me, the opposition as well. So joining causes isn't really my thing. I've always been sort of a solo person. I like partnerships, like individual people. I like small groups, but I'm never really I hate being pigeonholed into a box. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't
Mm-hmm.
join organizations. And I feel like most of their plights are corny. Like it's like what are you trying to tell us here? I mean, some of them are legit, but it's the aftermath of it. Like George Floyd being killed was a real problem. Like policing is
Mm-hmm.
something we got to figure out. The aftermath of it, of all of a sudden, there's all these riots, and then there's people breaking. I'm like, I don't. I'm not a
It,
part of that organization because now you're tagged with that. Like, you were a part of the
yep.
problem. It's like, no. If you want to know something, ask me individually. I will tell you. I don't join groups like that. And honestly, I think most Bitcoiners are sort of in that range, simply because once you get into Bitcoin, go down the rabbit hole, and you learn all of the things, all of the misconduct, all of the corruption that's happening in the world. It's like, yeah, all this other stuff is literally here to divide us. Like,
Yeah.
literally, it's they put out there to make you feel like that group's less than this group, or our group is better than your group. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, economically, if we're all broke, what the hell are we even talking about? Like, that's what
Mm-hmm.
I've always said. Is like, you got a bunch of broke people arguing with each other, and I'm like, you do realize the real enemy is just sitting back, laughing, getting paid off of you.
Oh yeah.
That's what I've always said. So as far as joining groups, not my thing. And I like, even in college, I got recruited for frats or fraternities, and I used to tell them, no, I don't join groups because one dude could do something, and then I'm a part of this group now. All the alphas act this way, or all the kappas act this way, or whatever it was. And I was like, no, I'd rather be individual,
Yeah.
and bring you all to me. And they ended up throwing parties at my house. But that's another
Yeah.
story. So again, not joining groups brings people to you, and I think it's in this day and time is sort of different because everybody has some plight or cause or something they're fighting for. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's just, if it's not economic, it's not worth fighting for.
Yeah. And I mean, I think economics solves so many of the problems.
Yeah.
You know, it
Oh yeah.
and it's interesting you said about the two things that happened in the last year, the you know insurrection of the Capitol,
Yeah.
and then all the riots over the summer,
Hmm.
um, and I just want to grab everybody and be like, that's arguing with each other and say like, do you understand that there are bad actors
Hmm.
that do not represent the message as a whole? You know what I mean? Because like,
Hmm.
let's just say people that were pro Trump and at his rally were probably people that over the summer going like, why is Black Lives Matter destroying all these neighborhoods and
Hmm.
blah blah blah. And then it's like, well, no, there's some like small
Small group.
bad actors that get in there and make the rest of you look bad. And
Hmm.
then it turns around and it happened to them because now everybody's like, oh, if you were a Trump supporter, you obviously wanted to like storm the Capitol. It's like, no, like
No.
in fact, it was probably some of the same people doing some of the
Hmm.
same stuff on both, and they just want us to fight against each other. And like, me being a movie person, I see this like cinematic moment of like where like everybody's in the streets fighting, and then like
Hmm.
all of a sudden like turn their attention to like the politicians and the media, and like the
Hmm.
media and politicians, like buttholes are gonna pucker like they're like, oh, you're
Exactly.
you
And
know
you're right. I think that day is coming. And the only reason is not more prevalent is because the people you're talking about that we're fighting against, they're very quiet. They don't have public images a lot of times. Their public image is the politician. So when I hear politicians speak and they say something that doesn't make sense, I'm like, all right, who's supporting them? Who's behind them that's making them say this? Who's the puppet master? Because honestly, all of the politicians have a boss.
Yep.
They're not going out and saying what they feel. I mean, I think the only person to do that was Trump. I think Trump really did just go out there and talk how he felt, which good or bad, whatever he was saying, at least it was him. Like I said,
that is like, the funniest thing. Yeah. He really did just the dude just said whatever he wanted to.
Yeah, like I said, I know it's a really polarizing subject to talk about Trump, but I always say there was never before or probably after him a more entertaining president. He literally came out and he talked like one of us. He was on Twitter just talking. And I think other politicians who seem clean cut and they have a perfect message, actually, I distrust them more because it's very planned. They have a, whatever agenda they're trying to get. And honestly, if you as a human being can't speak for yourself, I tend to not have as much respect for you, not as a person, but for your profession. I don't really have respect for professions where you can't do what you want. I mean, it just, freedom to me is just at all costs. Like, I don't care. And I'm kind of notorious in my family because I used to quit every job. Like, I was good at getting jobs, but if it got to a point where I felt too constricted, I would leave. Like, I don't care how broke on. And my mom thought I was crazy, but I was like, when I say freedom is the goal, I promise you, I would do whatever it takes to get there, even if it means suffering for a little bit to get there. So, yeah, you're right. I think a lot of their speak is very misleading. And I think a lot of what we're going to deal with is the people, once they start learning about the money system and they see all of this corruption, I think it's starting. Like Goldman Sachs saying Bitcoin was trash and they're coming out now saying you can get it. JP Morgan, same thing. I think people are starting to see like, hold up, this corruption is right in front of our face now. So I think that day is coming.
Yeah. They've been manipulating the money supply long enough and, playing, I feel bad for, across the board, anyone in like middle class, lower middle class. And like, once you start to realize how their wealth is just getting sucked right out from underneath them, it's like, you look at, the jobs, like, people working at Target and where I'm just like, man, like your rate is not going to go up at the rate that you need it to go up in order to keep paying for the house that you're already in,
and what happens to those workers in Walmart when they show up and they're making $15-$12 an hour? They show up and milk is $8 and bread is $6, and prices are going up on almost all commodities, like by a lot. I have a friend who builds houses. The price of lumber went up 30% in the last couple months. Like he was like, this is the first time I've ever seen that, and he's been doing it for 30 years. So, like I tell people, it's like, it's slow, but when it happens, it's almost too late for you. And that's what you said, those people that are just regular everyday people, might have a kid, might have a marriage, family, just going to work and, living their life, it's going to hit them the hardest. Because if you literally can't afford stuff, I mean, I'm not wishing bad on Walmart, but I'm pretty sure if all of Walmart's employees just showed up and said, no, I'm just taking what I want. I don't think anybody would really complain except Walmart. They'd be like, hey, why not? I mean, they got all the money anyway.
Oh yeah, and nobody's gonna feel bad for Walmart, that's for sure. No, and like we're in the process of the very beginning stages of building a house, and I'm like sweating. Like, I think I was having like a nightmare last night related to like lumber costs. Like, it's just like sitting there, I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna take 6 months for this house, 6 to 8 months for this house to be built. Like, Jesus Christ, like the price is gonna go up so fast, like, you know what I mean, like
twice as much.
And like, and I'm just terrified, like, that it's but then you start to think about, like, could you imagine if you were asleep at the wheel, like you said, like all the people, it's just they have no idea what's gonna hit them. Like, do you think we'll see something like the Weimar Republic inflation? I mean, not that crazy, but like
maybe not that deep, because again, they were burning money for heat. I don't know if we get that far. But I think I don't even really want to say that we won't, because again, every empire that's ever existed, your life expectancy is about 100 to 150 years. I think we're at 130 or so as a quote unquote empire. And it's just, in my opinion, it's possible, but it's not probable, because I think we can prop it up enough to make it seem as though we're doing fine. But if China does what I think they're going to do, is they're going to get as much Bitcoin infrastructure, technology stuff going, and then just say, we'll use the Chinese yuan. We don't need the dollar. That's when I think the house of cards, you may see a lot more stuff, because once people start saying we don't need the US dollar, man, I would hate to see it. But again, our only response is war. We don't have an economic answer to people saying we don't want to use it. It's just war. So Weimar Republic, maybe, but I don't think it's probable, but it is possible.
Yeah. And I mean, you think fixing the money, so that's an interesting take. So you think what China is going to do is use Bitcoin, because a lot of people say, oh, China's going to own it and then destroy it, own Bitcoin and destroy it, and I mean, they don't
just spend billions of dollars to destroy it.
It's something that you can't destroy,
Yeah.
But you think that they're going to use it to get off the dollar and just and tank the US economy, which, man, that really
just did a story this week. We just did a story this week where they said the digital yuan, they actually stated with the digital yuan, we won't have it used for the US dollar. And that to me is just like, they keep taking small shots at the US, sort of probing us. And again, like I said, I don't know where all of this social stuff comes from, but it's just funny that, again, Biden gets elected, and then when they go over to China, they get disrespected. Did you hear about that? When China, they gave them no, they gave them COVID test anal, and then they say, "Oh, sorry, it was a mistake." And if you know exactly, if you know world politics, which I had an old girlfriend that kind of broke it down to me, is that China always sort of tries the US, like, you know what I mean, like in a very in a very subtle way. They do things to make it seem like we think you're weak. And I think that's why Hillary Clinton was elected. They don't respect women as leaders. I think Joe Biden as a leader, they don't respect him. So again, they're slowly doing these small things, probing at the US, like, you all are weak, like we don't. And they were even talking that way, like, the US, the work. Like they just, to me, they just don't respect us that much. But they also have so much money in Bitcoin they can use as a reserve system. They can use a digital yuan, issue it to their citizens, and then they can say, we don't need it for international settlement. We don't need the dollar for international settlements. What are we going to do? Go to war with China? And I just see the game theory playing out now, because it's too many coincidences at the same time. I don't believe in coincidences anymore, because it's too much going on at the same time. So I think China has their game theory, and they have a 100-year plan.
I was just going to say that they don't care about 10 years.
The plan is not to be second.
They
didn't plan to be second. Exactly. So even if they created COVID or not, it worked for us. If you wanted to see a group of people, just a group of leadership fall by the wayside, our leaders just, they shitted the bed this year. It was just terrible how they responded to it. So even if, let's say, for instance, it did come out of China, and this was just a psyop to see how we would respond to a tragedy or emergency,
it couldn't have gone better for them.
F minus. China's looking at us like, oh, we can take them out anytime. If they all bend to the will of this inept government based on, some facts we threw on TV and scared everybody. Again, I'm not a health person or a professional. Just looking though at the statistics, something that kills 0.01% of people, if they all going to, conform based off that, hey, China might have us. So I'm just saying, I just think about game theory and the bigger picture with what Bitcoin can become.
Yeah, which I think, why people need to get into Bitcoin and why it's so important is that you're really looking out for yourself from here on out.
Yes.
Every
man for himself.
And, and we'll work together, we'll all help each other out. But yeah, it's really, you gotta, I feel safe knowing that it's like, oh man, if this goes down, Bitcoin's going to be through the roof price wise. Like, it's going to be great. If you're in it. And but yeah, it's just it's crazy to think about, because China, they don't care about it happening in their lifetime. They're focused on centuries. They're looking at their great grandchildren and what kind of, they want them to be in first place. They don't care about themselves. So it's a different culture too, that's kind of their culture. Where here, we're just consumerism and what's right in front of me right now. And we've been stupid enough to they probably just walked us right down the trail. They're like, wow, look at, every time they put another jelly bean down, they're like, jelly bean down. They're like, look how stupid these Americans are. They just pick it up and eat it and keep going.
Oh yeah. And I think just like I said, in my talks, they're doing most of the stuff deliberately, and they can see the cracks forming, and most empires implode from within. And unfortunately, I think that's what's happening. We're slowly getting to a point where everything is off limits. Nobody can talk. More control. I think vaccine passports are coming. Like it's just like, dude, if we.
Ooh.
I remember watching David Icke and a few what's his name, Bill. I forget Bill's name, last name, but he got killed or he committed suicide because of his book. I can't remember the name of it now, but yeah, I mean, I remember watching stuff like them like 8 years ago and thinking, oh man, this won't happen in my lifetime. And here we are. Like we're
Yeah.
sitting here at the face of all the things we didn't want to happen, and it's happening. It's just, people have everyday lives and they just ignore it.
So where do you think we go from here? Because I mean, to me personally, I'm like the freedom of speech suppression that we've seen, and and now the passports are the two things that have me just like, whoa, this is a big problem. Like, what do you think happens here?
Well, I know for me personally, what happens is the house I'm getting outside of this country will be ready in a couple months. So I know what is happening with me. But with others, what I think from here, where we go is people have to understand nobody's going to help you push back against what's happening. You have to decide, I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to do it. And then collectively, if you have a bunch of individuals who aren't going to take it, that's when you have a group. You don't have to try and wrangle everybody to agree with you. You know what I mean? Like me, I just know my family isn't dealing with the vaccine passport or whatever steps they try. My family isn't. So that's 75 to 100 people. So if another family, if you get everybody to understand we're not doing it, that's all it takes. So, and then from the freedom of speech standpoint, I think what people are going to start doing and have already started doing is because it's so restricted in one side, they're going to the complete opposite. Like the dirtier, the better. And there's like a crowd of people. And living in LA, I used to go to the comedy club 4 or 5 times a week. And my favorite genre of comedy, the dirtier the better. Like I like it disrespectful because I like awkward silence. And
I saw you say Patrice O'Neal, and I love Patrice.
My favorite comedian of all time. Like I like awkward silence. I like people to be uncomfortable because to me, that's when you see real humans. When everybody's jovial and everybody feels comfortable, whatever. But when you see a joke or speech come out, like right now, I say Bill Burr is probably the best at that. Every time he goes on, he speaks just like he did before, but it's just in this era, all of a sudden it's like, what? You can't talk about blah, blah. You can't say this. And he's like, what do you mean? I've been saying it for 30 years. I can't, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not gonna change it. Him and Patrice are good buddies too. They were like
exactly, yeah. Bill Burr, Patrice, that whole lineup at the Comedy Cellar was legendary, and a lot of them are famous now, and went on. But I think that type of speech is where we're headed. Like people want to see people speak regularly because you go on social media and everything is a diss to some other group. You can't say this word, you can't say that. And I understand the historical ramifications of some of these words, but most of it to me is just projecting. It's the oppression Olympics. Everybody is projecting that we're oppressed because somebody said something bad about me. Okay. Now, like as an adult man, I cannot let that stop me from doing anything. Like I can't look my daughter in the face and say, oh yeah, all this terrible speeches are stopping me from establishing your legacy. No, not going to happen. So, I think where we're headed is a lot more individuals looking to be self-sovereign and pushing back against this sort of overwhelming need to be socially right. I don't care. That socially right to me those are handcuffs because you can't talk now.
You can't say
what
anything.
Do you mean? Yeah, like having an opinion and saying it out loud now is like you can't say. Like whenever I says you can't say something, I probably try my hardest to say it, double down on it. Just because it's like, what do you mean? I'm a grown man. I'm free. I can say what I want.
It's you have to be, it's just that compulsion to like break rules. Like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but like, me and my wife were in London, my God, this was before kids, so it was a while ago, but, but we went in Buckingham Palace. She loves London. And anytime she'd gone there with her friend before, but they didn't get to go into Buckingham Palace at the time because it was either open or closed. So she was like so excited. We go into Buckingham Palace and we're walking around and like she's like getting pissed at me because I'm just sitting there like we're looking at like some of the family and like pictures, it's like their family photos on the fireplace. And I was like, God, you can tell some of them hit every branch of the ugly tree. And she's like, oh, she's like, this is their house. You can't say this. So then I'm like, oh, you told me I can't say it. Well, now I'm going to do it. So I'm pushing it to the next level. And then we go into this one room and they had like all this stuff behind velvet ropes, signs everywhere, not to touch anything. And they had this table, a solid gold table given to them by Napoleon Bonaparte. and like,
Wow.
to the family, however many years ago, however long ago. And
Mhm.
I just like, I'm sitting there looking at it. I told her, I said, yeah, I'm going to touch that. And she was like, she literally left me. She was like, all right, if you're getting kicked out, you're getting kicked out on your own. But it's just like, I had to do it. Like, I was like, all right, I put my hand on it. I was like, oh yeah, that's the stuff, and walked away. Like, there we
I
go.
know. Yeah, we were right there because my fiance knows that. She knows if you tell me to not do something, I'm probably gonna try my hardest to do it. And if I was in Buckingham Palace and they were pointing out stuff, I want to go. But whenever they point out stuff, we did kind of joke that whenever they do, we were gonna say, "Oh, that was stolen from Africa," and that was stolen. Right? Like as the group is being told, "Yeah, this was given to." No, that was stolen.
Yeah.
just just to see their reaction, because it was. I mean, historically, we would be
Oh
correct,
yeah.
but I like awkward silence because you can tell when real emotions come out. You know what I mean? Like you can tell when people are really like, "Oh, you weren't supposed to say that." There's no such thing. Not to me.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as what you can't say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to just embarrass myself at the Buckingham Palace. Probably get kicked out is probably one of my top things to do because to me, all the stuff people hold in high regard,
I know.
it's like it's my job to take it down a notch. Like,
I
dude,
know.
calm down, bro. Y'all printed the money and then gave it to yourself. It's not
Yeah.
noble. I don't care. I don't care about this family.
Dude, we gotta hang out because we'd have some fun. I'd love, like, my wife. I would say
Mhm.
that was the whole walk afterwards. I was like, she still gives me a hard time because I was like ripping on the royal family. I was like, what's the point of them? I was like, they don't even. I was like, what? The prime minister comes over and sits down and has like tea with the queen once a month. Like, what's the big deal?
What are you, 4 years old? You have a tea
Yeah,
towel?
yeah, exactly.
Just rag on the royal family. Oh yeah, we got to do it, man.
Uh, the uh That's funny. So if you don't want to say where you're going, but I'm asking just because I want to know what country people think is safe to move to. So if you don't want to
Oh yeah.
say, that's cool. But if so, where are you building the house at?
Oh, so right now, Barbados.
No way.
Um, yep, Barbados. Actually, I have about three business partners that are already there, and it's like prime for crypto people, 0% capital gains tax, and they've had a lot of their local politicians speak on crypto and try and get regulations implemented. They just don't know. That's the thing
Hmm.
is, and that's one of the reasons I'm going. So going there for about a month and a half, just to check everything out, get everything in place. But yeah, I'm looking at different places. Belize. I've looked in Ghana for different places because, in my opinion, you want to at least have a backup option outside of the country, if not number one option. And I'm not telling people to just run away from the U.S. Hey, my ancestors are from America. I don't want to leave here either. The
Hmm.
biggest thing is when it comes to survival, if you can't see it before it happens, or if you can't visualize it, a lot of times when it happens, it's too late. So to me, just looking at how things are, there may be a need to maybe slide outside the country for a little bit, or
Yeah.
maybe come back. But just having that backup plan, just having that in place is what I'm looking towards.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, I have that, exit strategy of like, we talk about like, my wife has like the day to day,
Mhm.
she's the micro and I'm the macro, so that it's
Yep.
like, if
Likewise. Yep.
if shit hits the fan, like, then she'll look at me and I'll be like, and like this car will pull up and like, it'll just whisk us away. And she's like, oh my god, you had this already planned. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready
Oh,
to get out of here. Like,
that was
it,
it.
it's a, it's with everything. um One thing, kind of how you mentioned with like all the rioting over the summer, and everybody was like, oh, it's Black Lives Matter, blah blah blah, and
Mhm.
pinning it all on one community. And my own personal experience was in Pittsburgh. They burnt a cop car in front
Mm.
of um the hockey arena,
Oh yeah.
and it was like, it just really, like, real, that was like the thing that like really bothered me, because it was like, oh, it's in my hometown, what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Mhm.
I was just there taking a picture with my 5-year-old in front of like the Mario Lemieux statue, and all of a sudden there's a car burning there, and like, it was just
Man.
like, what the hell is going on? So it was the next day. I went and I was like, all right, I'm buying another gun. It's
Yeah.
the tradition. If something goes down, you gotta go buy another one.
Just like in North Carolina. I'm with you, brother.
Yeah, and I walk into the store though. They opened at 10. I walked in at 10:05, and the
Mm.
line was like 8 deep, and it was like, black, white, Asian, like Middle Eastern. Like, we were all just like, and we were all like looking at each other. Like, yeah, shit's crazy, you know, like
You know why I'm here.
yep.
In the words of Marshawn, you know why I'm here.
Yeah, I think we all know what's going down, you know, and
And
like
I wanted to ask you this. Let me see what you think about this, because I have
yeah,
not a theory, but it's just something I've noticed. A lot of times, whenever these quote unquote riots happen, there's always one single cop car that's abandoned that is put on fire.
oh yeah,
Every Baltimore,
a bait car.
St.
I
Louis,
feel like it's a
bait
bait
car.
car.
It's got to be a bait car because the city can afford to give up one car. The thing is, when the media covers it, it's like a blazing fire, city in flames, blah blah blah. And then when they zoom out, it's literally like that one block, and the rest of the city isn't, nothing's
Yeah,
happening. So I think that bait car has got a lot of people to the point where they think, oh, they're burning down and they're trashing everything. And it's just like, there's one car was on fire, and then and people broke stuff, whatever. We don't know those people either, because I've seen a lot of people who they would say, "Oh, these black people are messing it up," but I've seen more white people knocking out windows and doing stuff who I think were either agents or undercover or working, because they would literally. I've seen videos of them paying kids to go knock out windows in the car. Of course, some 16-year-old kid is gonna take $200 to knock out windows of a cop car, like.
oh yeah,
But that 16-year-old kid not going to do anything. You know what I mean? Like what power do they have? They don't. That's pretty much all the power they have is messing up that bait car. So I've always wondered if people have noticed it like I have. It's always one car left and it's
yep,
on fire.
yeah. Well, in like I've never seen. Me and my wife actually both worked there, and I'd never seen a cop car parked there. It's like, I was like, what? That's weird. Like, why is there a cop car
That's
just
weird.
left
Yeah,
in the middle,
exactly.
and it just happens to be in the path right where everything is going? Yeah, and it's like, like you said, you don't believe in coincidences. Like, you know, you just look at these things,
No.
you're like, man, like there's a lot of coincidences going on in this last year. You know, it's
hmm
really,
Every
it's
every time?
yeah, I
Can't be
know.
every time, man.
I mean, and like, what are the odds too with the insurrection? What are the odds that people could actually breach the Capitol? Like, are you kidding me? Like, you can't get on
Impossible.
a plane if,
Impossible.
yeah, you can't get on a plane if you have too much shampoo. But like,
hmm
if apparently if a group of you just showed up to the Capitol, it's like, oh yeah, I mean, like the cops are just gonna stand down, you know,
Oh
and
no. Yeah.
no, and
That
I
should
think
have been a
that,
massacre. That should have been a massacre. Honest. If we're honestly speaking, the security I thought they had at the White House, all the times I've been to DC, it's a line of them, like out
yep,
front on a regular Tuesday. Like
hmm
it just doesn't happen. So yeah, it should have, if it was, actual a real thing, should have been a massacre. Should have been 100 something people got shot, 20
yeah,
more. That's what the news should have been. But the fact that it was like two people, I was like, all right, this is definitely something's going on here. Somebody planned it or somebody let them through. Whatever it is phony.
and that really drunk dude that like got in there, like he was like Trump won, like sitting on the chair. I was like, oh my god, this is
Like he
so
was celebrating a
embarrassing.
championship. Yeah, like he was celebrating a championship. I was like, dude, what are you doing? You know, it's cameras in here. You're
Yeah,
going to jail. Like the FBI rounding up everybody afterwards is kind of funny because they just
oh
went
yeah.
home like it was over. It's like, no, you should have had a bag packed. You should have been on the run from that point because they can see your face and they can just reverse image it and they'll find you in 2 days.
Yeah, like they're just taking pictures in like Pelosi's
Yeah.
office. Like, yeah, oh yeah, no big deal. I'll just do this. Like, it's just it's wild. But yeah, I mean, one thing that for it seems like your dislike for politicians. Um, I'm not a fan. I've never liked a politician. I always tell that there's not one I've ever liked, and
hmm
and it was interesting to see them all like the moment that like there were people making noise in the hallway, they were like
hmm
tucked behind the chairs, like and
Yeah.
these are the people that will
Yeah.
send your kids to war. Like they've
hmm
been sending kids to war for 20 plus years now in this war on terror, and
Yeah.
and that
And
then
I think that should have been broadcast a little bit more. It's like, these are your leaders. Look how terrified they are. Look how
oh yeah,
scared they are, hiding behind chairs and crying. And I don't want to do it. It's like, if we went back to the olden days, so to say, like the old humans or whatnot, the leaders were always the strongest, like
yeah,
physically, if they could do something. That's why we were joking and saying whoever our president is should just be able to box the other country's president, and that's how we solve our issues. It's just
yeah,
like, nah, our president is stronger than yours. I don't care, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, really, we just have a bunch of politicians who are good at putting other kids in harm's way, messing up the economy for others, and keeping themselves insulated and safe. And that was on display when they charged it. I mean, it was probably the softest group of people I've ever seen in my life. Like literally cowering behind the fact that people came in. It's like,
Yeah.
Bro, you're in the White House or you're in the Capitol. Like, what do you mean? It's like the most locked down place. Calm down. So, yeah, it was just good to see.
What is your opinion on them too? Like, it makes me just cringe to see whenever like Pelosi and them after like the George Floyd stuff, like they're kneeling down and like,
Kneeling. Oh my God, get out of here. That whole era was it was disrespectful. Like, I don't think people understand. It's disrespectful to take an issue, black people getting killed by police, and then turning it into some sort of show of solidarity, which we all know isn't real. And then you're wearing kente cloth,
oh yeah,
and then
it's
taking
like
a knee.
so
Get out of
cringy.
here, get out of here, Pelosi. Like, no black person that I respect would look at that and say, "I accept your apology." There is no. What are we talking about here? Pass a damn law that actually works. That's your
Yeah,
job. You don't have
yeah.
to get on one knee for me. Just do your job. Like, and then on top of that, some of the virtue signaling coming from these corporations, so fake. It was so
Oh
fake. I
yeah,
mean, Starbucks flip flop back. It's whatever looks good for them to keep profit. So at the time, it looked good to say, yeah, we support Black Lives Matter. We support blah blah blah. And even Starbucks was like, they said what they really thought. It was like, no, we don't support it. And then they got backlash. It was like, oh yeah, now we support it. Like, come on, man. Like, the virtue signaling was disgusting to me. It was very disrespectful because it's like they treat the black community, for one, as like we're monolithic, like we all agree this happened to all of us. No, I don't feel oppressed, for one, and then for two, whenever they do come out with these solutions, they're whoever's guiding them or whoever they are, they may be black, but again, we don't agree. So
mm-hmm.
you're getting your stuff from black people, but it's still corny to the majority of the black community. So I just hate it. And I think that if people were actually good people, you don't have to virtue signal. Like I tell people all the time, I was like, my two best friends that are white, we've never had a conversation about the N-word, about things that go on because they're good people. Like, it wouldn't even
Yeah,
happen. Like, why would we even have this? If you constantly have to tell me you're a good person, you're probably not. So that's what I hate from from that era. And of course, continuing on, like we said, part of a bigger problem. Everybody socially wants to be correct and say it's just corny, man. And I think in real life, that's not the deal. That's not what's really going on.
yeah, yeah. When they when they put on the garb, I was like, oh my god, like they really are so tone deaf. They have no
Tone
idea
deaf. None.
how terrible this looks. And I mean, obviously, because I'm not, in the black community, so I don't understand. But like, is it just like people are like sick of getting walked on by the politicians? Like, because I
Oh
feel
yeah.
like it's like it's just so. I think with that type of stuff, like all the virtue signaling, it was so obvious to me. Like, wow, they are just trying. They're not succeeding. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to use these different communities for their own benefit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, enough's enough. Like
Yeah.
this is it. And like, and really to me, I mean, with the cop thing, it's like you gotta let's focus on the good cops and let's focus on making good cops because you need police. You know,
Exactly. Like,
um,
even the thing they were trying to do with like defund the police, like get rid of all police. I'm like, who made
yeah,
that up? Point at them, because that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. You have old people, you have mentally challenged people, you have people that need help. Just because women who live by themselves. There's plenty of
yeah,
reasons why we need police. What are you talking about? There are bad police. We should work as hard as we do to get good police, to get out bad police. And again, to me, that's a win-win because then the police the police that work there that are good. You don't have to worry about these dudes, and then the people won't have to worry about the quote unquote bad cops. So I'm like, y'all, you have to understand like what you're saying makes no sense. And I think a lot of it is, and unfortunately, I think in the black community, they have, and by they I mean media and the people who have the money, corporate people, corporate interests, they have succeeded in pushing, I think, black women to the front of the black quote unquote movement. That's why I think a lot of our responses have been emotional. Like, none of it's logical. None of what they're doing logically makes sense to me. But from an emotional standpoint, if you have a bunch of women leading it and they're out there, doing what they want to do, they're emotional. So they're just saying, well, we need to do this and then we need to include everybody into it. We got to bring in the LGBT community. We got to bring in the trans community. We got to bring in the whoever, stop Asian hate community. Now everybody is, what is it? What's the thing? Black, indigenous, people of color. What the hell is that? Somebody just made up something and now I'm a part of it? No, bro, this is the goofiest stuff ever. And I think that unfortunately, the people listen to in the black community, they're on TV. But to get to that point, to get in their good graces to talk on TV, you sort of have to conform to their message. And that's what I think is missing, is that like you yourself, and like you say, you're not in the Black community. If you wanted to find out things in the Black community, you would go to what are called the gatekeepers, right? People who have shows, people who have impact, whatever. Most of them only got that show because they have the same ethos, they have the same message, and most Black people disagree with them, but that's not the crowd they're going for. So it doesn't matter. And unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with. That's why I feel like voices like mine, other people who aren't quote unquote famous, real people who have made a way, a lot of business owners, I think it would probably be better talking to them about the Black community, because they're in the streets. They're out here every day like I am.
Yeah.
They understand, what it means to grow a family. And then at some point somebody tells you, no, you need me because you're oppressed. That's what? You know how disrespectful that is? So again, I mean, it is what it is, but we live in a crazy time, and I'm just trying to make sure my family's good.
Yeah, no, that's more power to you. And by the way, I saw so you got engaged this weekend.
Yeah, got engaged, took the big step.
Congrats.
Oh yeah.
Was that the sweaty palms all day?
All day. And you know what's funny? It was my birthday that day. So that's the only way I could surprise her. She thought the whole day I kept forgetting it was my birthday, because I would pay for stuff usually. So she would try and pay like, it's your birthday. I was like, oh yeah, it is my birthday. And then later she was like, now I see why you kept forgetting your birthday all day. You were thinking about this. I was like, I didn't even think about my birthday. I spent the whole day sweaty palms thinking about, am I gonna trip up the stairs? Am I gonna fumble when I get there? The ring, is it in the box? Things like that. So just glad it's over. It was fun.
Yeah. It is, I've got two young ones too, and you've got a young one. I mean, it's just so imperative, I think, for us to be the leaders of, to lead us out of this mess where like just people like us and we're just like, you know what, like looking at all the politicians and the corporate leaders, like, screw you guys, like we're done.
Shut up.
Your
my
time
wife won't
is
turn
over.
on the news. She won't turn on the news in the house because I'll spend 20 minutes just shut up. What are you talking about? Like from the other room. Like I'm just like, this is stupid. Like, so yeah,
I heard on the radio, I just happened to hear by accident, and it's so funny because I mean, I was dropping my son off at school and I'm like leaving school, so I switch off of his playlist that we listened on the way to school, and the radio pops on real quick, and only thing I hear is that like the Pennsylvania governor said, because of the recent shootings that we in the spike in violence, in gun violence in the last 12 months, we need to have stricter laws on guns. And I was just like, I wonder why. Like I literally out loud yelled that. I was like, I wonder why. I don't know. You shut everybody in their house for 12 months and make people go crazy. Also shove all this stuff down their throats. I wonder why. Gun violence might be up. Like let's figure this out. It has nothing to do with the laws. It has everything to do with what you're pushing on us. And I think something that's probably going to hit people, and I want to hear what you think of this. I feel like our freedoms, that it's not so much that our freedoms are going away, it's that they were never there and the veil is just dropping. And
exactly. I'm so glad you said that. That's
kind of what freaks me out. Like, what do you think of all of that?
Well, I've always said that a lot of the things we call freedoms are really just like IOUs. They're just temporary stuff, because at any point they can snatch it away. And what I mean by that, like you said, the veil being lifted, is that our population has literally been told to be controlled. That's what the public education system is for. That's what the food system is for. You're being told to be controlled. If you have dumb, fat, lazy people, it's really easy to tell them what to do. And as long as they have Netflix and they can order food, most people don't even care about what's going on in the outside world. So I think the freedom veil that we're seeing is being lifted. I think the first step of that veil being lifted was the recession in 2008. I don't really hear, I mean, no, I won't say that. There were people before talking about it, but it was like individuals, literally.
Yeah, it was random.
Very sparse, very random. And after 2008, I think people started discussing, hey, what's going on here? You mean this whole system can collapse because a few bankers made bad decisions? That's a problem. And then Bitcoin really pulled up the veil. I mean, literally, the emperor has no clothes. I think Bitcoin was the person who exposed that, because now people are like, so you mean to tell me this money system can do all this stuff, but somehow with all you people in government, all this, you can't do it? You can't just have an open. So that sort of, you let this little piece of technology 12 years ago take over or gain $1 trillion market, the veil is being lifted up everywhere. And you're right. I think the liberties that we think we have, they can be taken at any time. People talk about, buy land and get stuff. It's like, yeah, but even that eminent domain, they could, I mean, they could literally do anything. And the reason that I think this is happening is not just, physically thinking, but even sort of spiritually thinking, like how the world is changing. I feel like everything is flipped upside down. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but things that were supposed to be happening are not happening anymore. Things that were not supposed to happen are suddenly are the norm now. So I just feel like everything's sort of flipped upside down, and it's because there's a big change coming, and we're just here to witness it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny you say with like the eminent domain and everything, like, and I hope like my neighborhood, like when we move, I hope they're not thinking like, oh, we're getting out for like because of the neighbors or whatever. And I try to communicate that to people. I mean, we didn't tell anybody we're moving yet. We didn't put our house on the market, but like, but yeah, I don't want them, like, our neighbors are great, like everybody's great, but I'm like, with everything that's happened, like I went acres, and I'm like, I want my own space. But then, like you said, with the eminent domain, I even feel like I'm looking at it and I'm like, honey, we've got people too close to us. Like we need we need
more acres.
We need like a mountain between us and everything else, I'll have to recruit you if you're at all interested. I want to produce this animated show called The Citadel, and get Bitcoiners to like all be living in the Citadel in the anime world, and kind of make it like a Family Guy type thing.
That would be hilarious. I would love it.
And everybody's used to recording at home. Everybody's podcasters, so we all got the equipment. I mean, I think we could record it, and everybody can lend their voice and make it something fun. But so one of the I wanted to just to hit a couple more questions before we run. So is it one of the people that asked us on Twitter, I asked a question, and they basically, to sum it up, they said, is it too late to buy Bitcoin? Because I mean, I know I'm hearing that a lot. And when you walk into a room and tell people, hey, you should buy this thing, it's it's $56,000, it's $59,000 today, you should buy it, and they're just like, whoa, it's over, like it's never getting higher. What would you say to that?
So Bitcoin's price has no top because fiat has no bottom. So what you're watching is I mean, when people say it's too early, too late, I'm like, too late. It's been 12 years. Like we have not had a financial collapse during the history of Bitcoin. So we haven't seen Bitcoin used for the main reason it was built, right? And that's when I think hyper Bitcoinization happens, is when the only asset that is still going up while everything else is falling apart, if that becomes Bitcoin, it's never too late. And I always tell people that if you think in Satoshis, because like you said, one Bitcoin is going to be impossible to get in maybe 5 to 10 years, think in Satoshis. Like I just said, 1 million Satoshis is 0.01 Bitcoin. And a lot of people can afford that right now. 600, 500 bucks. You can afford that. And again, that could create the generational wealth for your family forever, based on the fact that I think Bitcoin, once it sucks up the bond market, I mean, Bitcoin's going to be 10 million, $20 million a piece. So it's not too late. Buy Satoshis, dollar cost average, and everybody thought it was late. When I first bought Bitcoin, it's $150, $170. Sorry. I thought I was too late, because in 2013, I'm looking at Max Kaiser and some of these other guys. They're like, I was buying Bitcoin at $1 or 5 cents or 20 cents. I'm like, man, they already 100x. I missed it. That's what people think. And I'm like, no. Now imagine if in my head, I was like, I'm going to wait for a dip. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm going to wait for a dip and then buy some. Imagine if I did that. I mean, I probably would have left it alone and never bought it. So again, everybody thinks they're too late. Everybody thinks it's too high until the next bull run. And again, you'll be happy. You'll be very satisfied. Just dollar cost average and wait. Very simple.
And what's up with the new book? So you have an extended version coming out?
Well, the new book is completely new. It's just more solutions. Completely new book. Completely new book. 7 new chapters. Added 200 more people to the Black Blockchain Directory. And this book actually it's taking it up a notch, right? So the first book, it's cute, it's to the point, it's for beginners. The second book is sort of like the 200 level course. Like, you have Bitcoin or you own crypto, that's fine, but you need to learn how to run a node. You need to learn how to establish your own private wallet and generate your keys. You need to know what to do in marriage when you have Bitcoin, because if we're talking about generational wealth, A lot of people's wealth is taken when marriage is split, or when you have that grandkid that was stupid enough to spend all his money on something stupid. You know what I mean? Like they say, dynasties last 3 generations. So I write about that. I write about different countries around the world. The last book had about 8 countries. This one has 40. So you have 40 different countries for remittance payments, and then their policies locally, because I just told you a lot of people may need another place to go. So you want to know these cities to go to. So I think all of that in the second book is just taking it up a notch. And because of legal reasons, I can't actually release it. But once my lawyer gives the go ahead, it will be out. I can't wait for people to read it. And I think it's definitely needed for this time, especially some of the stuff I wrote. I wrote it last July and like August, and it's coming true right now. So I really can't wait to release it. So people are reading it like, did you just write this yesterday? It's like, no, I wrote it, and this stuff is coming to fruition now. So
that's crazy. So how is it? Are you getting close on the legal end? I mean, you think it'll be?
Yes, April 17th is supposed to be the day I can release it. So you get the all clear April 17th, and the second I do, I'll be printing and shipping. So this month,
what's that one called again?
Bitcoin in Black America, Volume 2.
Okay, and it's just a completely new book. Okay.
Completely new book. It's almost as if because the first book was originally like 300 or so pages, way too long. So I cut it down to 180, and the extra solutions that I thought were a little too advanced for beginners, that along with other stuff is the second book.
And someone like me who is as translucent as they come, except for my bright red tomato face, it can apply for me as well, right? You know, because I'm like hearing you talk about that, like nodes and everything, and that's where I want to get. I'm like, I got to start learning that stuff. Like, I'm ready to go to the 200 level.
I got you. Yeah, it teaches you how to get a Lightning node, how to set it up, how to do, how to set up a Bitcoin node, of course, and then also it's 3 webinars that I've done that are attached to the book. So if you purchase the book, you get those 3 webinars. You also get the audio version and the digital version for free. All of that bundled into one. So it's more of an educational experience than a book. And I've introduced scarcity. So there's only 10,000 copies ever going to be available. Because I want to make, I don't know if I'm the first person to do that, but I wanted to introduce scarcity simply because, again, that's what gives a book value to me. And if you buy it, the price is $100. I feel like you can resell it later if you want to, because it'll be scarce. Literally, there's only 10,000 ever. I'm only after that. Yeah. If you don't have the information, the best you could probably do is a digital copy, but good luck.
Yeah. Well, that makes me think of, did you ever see the movie, The Book of Eli?
I haven't finished it. I just started maybe 5 minutes into it a long time ago. Never finished it.
That's a good one because it it's Denzel walking with the Bible basically, and and also Denzel is just like his typical badass, just like destroying everybody. But all right, where can people find you? It's at Bitcoin Zay on
Bitcoin Zay on Twitter, at the Isaiah Jackson on Instagram, and bitcoininblackамerica.com.
And well, thanks a lot for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. And everybody look out for the basketball tournament down at the Bitcoin Open. Yeah. Or wait, is that what it is?
The Bitcoin Classic. Yep.
The Bitcoin Classic.
Bitcoin 2021. We'll be there June 5th and 6th.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Isaiah for coming on. I really appreciated him taking the time to talk about Bitcoin, his books and everything. I'm sure he's talked about them a million times, and he's got his new one coming out. So look out for that coming out on April 17th. But yeah, it was great conversation. It was also good to hear that there's someone else out there like me that likes to make people feel uncomfortable and say things. And if he's ever in Buckingham Palace, he'll touch the things behind the velvet ropes like I will. So really appreciated him coming on, and you can check him out at Community Crypto, his show, and at Bitcoin Zay on Twitter. And if you have any questions or comments for me, just email me bitcoinmadesimplepodcast@gmail.com or reach out to me on Twitter at Bitcoin Simply. Thank you everybody for listening. I really appreciate it.